Okay, I think let's see. We were talking about a couple of things. This story time with my name's Ronnie Baker, running for United States Congress, 14th District of Georgia. We got off subject. We were talking about the Bible and Jesus talking to the apostles, and they asked Jesus what to say when you go to your prayer closet, and everybody knows the answer. It's the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In other words, the Lord's Prayer. But anyway, that's not the subject. We'll touch that another day. Uh, we were talking about uh, men and how we don't know what we don't know. I have learned over the years that the more I learn, the more I realize of things I don't know. The more I know, the more ignorant I realize that I am. For example, okay, my son, when he was 7 years old, beautiful kid. I was we lost his mother 8 days before he turned two. I was in a relationship with a wonderful woman, Amy Neal. I should have married that girl so many times, and I just, everything was confused, and I had to, I want to make sure everybody got the love they deserve. So, uh, Amy, we were living right up there. I built that house up there so it'd be close enough to mother and far enough from mother that I have some privacy. So Ronnie, it's time for him to get into sports. So I take him and put him on the football team. I love football, man. I love football. I played football every single day. And then I played sandlot football until I was 28 years old. Uh, this story might come up, but the last 2 weekends I played football, sandlot football. I broke two collarbones. The last one belonged to a man that was supposed to be at the Falcons training camp the next morning. He shouldn't have been there. If I'd have known that he was there, I'd have refused to, you know. Anyway, he ended up with broken collarbone. My wife told me I was 28 years old and I had a son, a wife, and kid at home, and I was the sole provider of the family, and I needed to put those games aside because the next collarbone that gets broken is probably mine. But anyway, so my son's 7 years old, and we're putting him in sports. I thought the kid loved football because I love football. But our kids, they choose their own way, as people do. So I put him on the football team, and he was good. Ronnie was fast, and he was really good. He weighed 45 pounds, wringing wet, and the average weight of those guys was 75 pounds. He'd hit them with everything he had, just bounce off. We got some cute videos of Ronnie hitting some guys and bouncing off, or everybody getting tackled and Ronnie being the last one to jump on top of the pile. It was really cute. But he knew that he couldn't compete with those boys. He knew he wasn't one of the best ones on the team. He wasn't used to that. We lost his mother right 8 days before he turned two, and my mother was the most protected person in the world anyway. And we watched that boy like he had magnifying glasses on. We over worried. He was protected. He was King Ronnie. He was, everybody. Some people can't get babysitters. I'm like, please bring my child home. I want to spend some time with my child. Built this big old house for him and all his friends. Bring my child home. Anyway, so baseball. My brother-in-law Jeff Oney and I, we decided we're going to coach Ronnie, and he's the oldest. Jeff and Hernandez got children. I think Christine was a baby then, and Trent was maybe two. I think Ronnie's 5 and 7 years older than them. But anyway, Jeff and I it's a coach pitch, 7 and 8 year old, 8 and under, and I put Ronnie in at third, and the ball's hit down the line, and he makes the play. He makes a great play at third base. Skins his elbow up really bad, makes the long throw to first place, is out. And he knew he did a good job. He heard the crowd. He knew they was proud. He's used to people being proud of him. That's all he's ever heard is praise all his life. This kid he never cried. He was my wife breastfed him for 18 months. He never even woke us up. He woke her up. I remember waking up for her, and she was laying there, in the nursing. He slept with us, and he woke up. She was, she gave him she fed him, and they all went back to sleep. Anyway, he's 7 years old, playing baseball. made a close call down the third base line, and made the play. He's out, but he skinned his elbow up pretty bad, and I just knew he's done. I mean, this kid. I mean, he didn't even like to get his hands dirty. He was just, if it, we had to cut the things off his shirts, the tags, because he just got, he just. I just knew he was done. I mean, his elbow was skinned up pretty bad. So he goes in. We go into this. This was second inning. We're going to the third, and another one, a hot one, hit up the middle, and Ronnie skins the other elbow and makes the play. And I thought, well, we found his sport. We found his sport. I've got a wonderful picture that I want to share with you guys. The most important thing about to hit a baseball, my son was the best baseball player in the state of Georgia the year he graduated, 2002. And I don't recall his senior year, I don't recall him ever swinging at a baseball that he didn't make contact with. He always kept his eye on the baseball. I got a picture of him when he's 7, and he's up on his toes. Somebody from Rome News took that picture. It's the greatest picture I've ever seen of my son. But he's up on his toes, and he's got this look on his face, and the bat is extended straight out, and the baseball is that far from the bat, and he's got his eye right on the ball, and he hits that ball and makes the play. So anyway, he skids his elbow up third base, and so we found his sport. We found his sport, and he played baseball, and he got a 5-year full ride to play at Berry College, and I don't know who was more disappointed, David Beasley or me. And then a coach, long story, a coach got wind that my son didn't play, and I had every coach in the United States that had a baseball team that could give him a scholarship, trying to get him to go to his school. You can't even go to Berry College on a scholarship anymore. It costs $50,000. He could have got a 5-year education. But anyway, my son has done well, by the way, and even though he could have had an easy life, he chose the harder route, and he always conquers. He always overcomes. He always, whatever comes up, things come up and he conquers. He started work with me. I was living in Orlando, and when Katrina hit, and I went to just temporarily. I just needed to round some money up to supplement my company, Muscle Maker, and a friend of mine, he said, well, let's just, instead of borrowing money, let's go make the money. So I went and worked Hurricane Katrina, and I brought Ronnie down and got him started, and that was his first job really out of deciding what he wanted to do with his life. I think he was 2021. And so he's still doing it. I mean, he's probably made a couple of $1 million putting people's houses back together from mostly hailstorms. We've worked hurricanes and stuff. He's got a good job up in Chattanooga now, and got a lovely relationship with a lovely Jennifer, and she's got some children and a grandchild, and everybody's happy and it's all good. So so the subject we were talking about is men not knowing what they know. Okay, how do I know Jeff Olney, my brother-in-law, knew nothing about baseball, never did know anything about baseball, and because my son taught my niece Christine how to play baseball, she was at the last year she played baseball with the boys. She was 13 years old, and she had the lowest ERA at the World Series. She was a left-handed pitcher. She had 4 pitchers with motion. She threw a knuckleball for a strike, fastball, change-up, curve, and knuckleball for a strike, left-handed. And she had the highest batting average. Now, she couldn't hit the ball. She was like my son. She was a contact hitter. My son hit a few over the fence, but he never swung for the fence. They went over. He was taught that the inside pitches go down the left. Up the middle, it's going up the middle. The pitch to the outside is most likely going up the right. If you know about how to hit a baseball, you should know that. But anyway, baseball is a complicated game, and what I've learned through life is we need to know what we don't know. If I had just thought that I knew everything like everybody else, my son never would have become the great baseball player he is and was. So he's 7 years old. We played that season. And I think we had a winning season. We did good. Ronnie's 7 years old, and he's going to be 8 the next year. And These people told me about this guy that was a really good coach, and he knew everything about baseball, and I should make sure he'd get on that guy's team. And I did. That's the only year that my son played baseball that I didn't coach. The only year was when my son was 8 years old, and it don't matter who the coach was. But anyway, in between those years, I took Ronnie to David Beasley's baseball camp at Berry College. And instead of dropping him off, I think I was probably the only parent that stayed. I stayed and took notes. I'll make sure this thing's still recording. So I stayed and take notes. And, the first thing they taught you when you're just a kid, it's complicated. It's complicated. Baseball is a complicated sport. Let me jump subject. The AD of Rome High School, when I was coaching these boys, he didn't like for his football players to play on my summer baseball team. And he didn't mind telling me about it. And we bumped heads about it. But it was his job to give me $200 every year and a dozen baseballs, from the athletic department of Rome High School. So, but he was a wise man. He said this about baseball, and it's one of the most profound things I ever heard that explains it in such small words. He said, everybody's played a little baseball, softball, and they think they know the sport. But baseball is a complicated sport. It's just a brain game. For example, the first thing they teach you, first thing David Beasley and those guys, it's usually guys that played for David Beasley, and they're doing the intern program or whatever. It's always a great guys, a lot of fun. If you're in Rome, Georgia, if David Beasley and those kids, those boys that are, I remember Hooper and some guys are great baseball players. They teach your son, your children, boys and girls, how to play baseball, and they're good. But the first thing they teach you to alligator it. The ball's coming. You don't want to get hit in the face with the ball. You alligator it. You make sure your glove's on the ground. You got this hand so it don't hit you in the face. When the ball comes in, you alligator it. Something a kid can refer to. I'm telling you, David Beasley is a genius. And I don't know if he came up with all this, but I'm sure he did a lot of it. So then he taught us the 6 steps to hitting a baseball and the 9 steps to throwing a baseball. Well, the 6 steps, for example, the first thing you got to do is line your knuckles up. People think you're supposed to hold the bat like that, but you got to hold the bat like that because when you swing, you want it to release. It's got to roll, or you'll have a hitch, just like a golf swing. You have a hitch and it'll slow it down. So you line up the knuckles, and you get in. They called it getting the fighter position. You hold your fans up in front of you so you don't get your nose popped when you're fighting. And then you 60-40. You put 60% of your weight on the back leg and 40% on the front. And then blah, blah, blah. And the last step, number 6, is anybody should know, if you know anything about baseball, it's about confidence. Coach Beasley, when you join his baseball team, or you're lucky enough to get on his baseball team, or if he give you a scholarship, I don't think they do that anymore. But if you're on his team, you're probably the hero from your school, and you are the big dog. And he's going to break you down like they do in boot camp and humble you. But before you step into that batting box or on that mound or on that field to make a play in a baseball game, every bit of that confidence that you had when you met David Beasley, you're going to have that time 1,000 because now you really know what you're doing. You were just doing it out for raw talent before. I mean, everything is relevant. Everything is you got to take everything, the way things are. That it is what it is. For example, I know this. A lot of people don't know this. I don't care how good your son is at baseball. If you got a scout that comes to a baseball game to look at your son or daughter to play baseball, if you don't run onto the field and run off to the field, and every time you hit a pop-up, run it out to first base as hard as you can, and make sure your hat's right and your shirt tail's tucked in, you don't get to play. You don't get to go to college, and you don't get recruited. And you don't get recruited for pro, because everybody can play baseball. This is the way they look at it. They say, that kid is good. That kid's got some talent. Wonder how good it'd be if he knew anything about baseball. So you get your college guys, and they get them in there, and they teach them how to play baseball. They teach them things they didn't ever learn. I bought Ron Pope. Ron Pope was the winningest college baseball coach in history. I guess he still is. He was at Mississippi for a long time. He was at the University of Georgia. The year my son started at Rome High shortstop as a sophomore. Most kids in a school of that size, 4A, 5A school, don't get to play varsity till their senior year. My son played 8th and 9th grade JV, and then he started shortstop 10th grade on at Rome High. But again, my son knew how to play baseball because he was the best. Was he more talented? He had some talent. He had some skills. His mother, my God, she had skills that it just amazed me. I mean, she was killed in an auto accident when she was 21. We'll never know. But I mean, I didn't even know she could play tennis until the first time we played tennis. And then her mother put her on a tennis league, and she was supposed to be a D player. And I don't know how. Oh my God, it was embarrassing. That she would. It was like grown men playing with kids. She was an A player. I didn't know. I'd never seen my wife play tennis before. She come up behind me. But anyway, she got a lot of talent from my son. The subject is men knowing what they don't know. Ron Pope, his book on baseball has got a chapter on how to turn a double play from shortstop. You'd think the ball's hit at you, you run, catch it, and you throw it to whichever base you need to throw it to. Pretty simple, right? No. Those guys have it down to a science. Which foot goes where in which particular situation, where the runners are. It is a science, and that's why they practice so much, is because it's this automatic muscle memory. You don't have time to think when that ball's hit. It's coming at you doing a 140. It's coming at you as a batter from 80 to 100 plus. But then when it comes off bat, for example, I never will forget Ron Pope when we were at that thing where Ronnie was 16. He had just finished his sophomore year at Rome High, and every baseball player that was probably a hopeful was at University of Georgia. My dad lives in Athens, so he was there. And I'm doing this every day. That's what I do. I spent 150 at that point. I was 150 days a year on the baseball field. Ronnie one year played on 4 teams at the same time. Long story, it just happened that way. But anyway, we're at the University of Georgia, and everybody, all the scouts for all the colleges are there. And my dad, just branch off this story. My dad comes up and says, "Son, you need to talk to your son." I said, "Dad, what's he doing?" He said, "These coaches are going around giving these guys instructions and helping their bat swing." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Except your son." I said, "Well, what's happening?" He said, "Well, what's happening is these coaches are going up to Ronnie, and they said, 'That's a damn good swing, son. What's your name?' I said, 'Well, what is he saying?' And Dad said, 'Ronnie.' He said, 'Ronnie? That's it? His name's Ronnie?' Now, Ronnie well knew that in baseball, a college coach, cannot try to recruit you out of high school until you played 18 games your senior year. They said they don't want people giving up their, not getting an education for sports. And so Ronnie knew that. I said, 'Come here, son.' I went and got my son. I said, 'Come here, son.' I said, 'When you got one of these coaches come up to you and say, "That's a damn good swing, son." Now, we haven't talked to David Beasley yet. David Beasley recruited Ronnie at a baseball game, and that's another story. But anyway, I said, 'Son, when one of these guys come up to you and ask you what your name is, this is your answer. My name is Ronnie Baker Jr. I got a 3.8 GPA. I started shortstop at Rome High as a sophomore, and I know you can't talk to me, but my dad's standing right over there.' So, but anyway, he ended up getting a scholarship at Berry College, and he never played. He could play. He probably could play, but he did teach Christine. Y'all are going to be hearing a little bit about Christine, and I'll tell you why. Christine comes from a slew of great Christines through our family history. My great-grandmother eventually ended up here from Scotland, and her maiden name was Shrimpshire. And Shrimpshire goes back to the French word put together from fencing and protecting. The two words together is a French word, and so a fencer, that was protecting, is where it comes from. And we've got a coat of arms that goes all the way back. Our ancestors were lords in Scotland, and they traded with Sir William Wallace. So if I, I didn't even think much about your ancestors and stuff when you're running for Congress, but then I saw Wendy Davis talking about she came here to go to college. She went to college, and 5 generations had lived in Georgia. Well, my dad's mother's mother was full-blooded Cherokee or Creek. We haven't drove that out of him, but we've always known that. So our ancestry here in Northwest Georgia goes back longer than the history books. So anyway, we're back to we don't know what we don't know. Okay, the first thing that you learned, the reason the way you start a baseball swing is you get the way they taught a child, or 6 to 8 to 10, they relate to is get the mugger off the back. In other words, you're holding the bat, you get the mugger with this elbow off the back. Punch it down like that. That starts a down swing. And when you hit a baseball, you want to hit it down. You chop down, and that spins it, makes it rise. If you swing level, you ground out. You ground out. If you swing level, it's going to put a spin that goes down, or no spin, and it's most likely that's where you get your double play balls. Pitchers try to get you to hit the top of the ball. They don't want you to hit the ball. If you just chop that ball, now they're swinging so fast you can't see it. It looks like they're swinging level, but actually it's a little loop, kind of like a baseball swing. A golf swing. So, how do I know that Jeff never learned anything? It's because he was telling Christine her last collegiate game at the University of Georgia he said, swing level, Chrissy, swing level, Chrissy. Nope. I told him 1,000 times, if you swing level, Jeff, you ground out. But nobody listens to me because what I know. And it don't matter. My son taught her how to play baseball. She become the best baseball player. She kicked those little boys' ass all over fucking Georgia. And then she went and got a collegiate career in 4 years played 4 years at Georgia. And at the same time, my wife's sister Laura's daughter, Nikki Sagerman, was playing for the University of Kentucky. So that was fun. I had 2 nieces playing softball, and it was fun when they played together. I remember going to a powerlifting contest in Athens. My dad had it was a national meet. Anyway, I was emceeing that day, and so soon it was over, I wanted to hurry up and get to the game and see what was up. And so I ran in, I get there, and I go to the dugout, and all the University of Girls softball team was in there, and I said, where's Gamal? And they'll go, because everybody knew who Gamal was. My mother. My mother was one of Georgia's biggest fans when Christine played softball for 4 years. It was so much fun. But anyway, the subject is know what you don't know. If I had just thought I knew everything about baseball, my son would just been just another guy, and he wouldn't have did as good as he did, and I wouldn't have worked as hard as I could to help everybody win baseball games. I mean, we played to win. We played to win. He played on some different leagues. He played on Little League one year, and it was a lot of fun. That was the year he was playing on four teams at the same time. We was already play. I always played Dizzy Dean, which you play to win. You play to win. Got a cat trying some acrobatic stuff. So we played to win. Dizzy Dean played to win. You don't have to. The parents knew that the best baseball player was going to be on that field. We played to win every day. If you wanted your kid to get to play, if he wasn't good enough to play with these guys, you probably want to take him over to the rec department or Little League. So he's already playing. Somehow we got on. We were. He was playing. Of course, it was the year. I guess it was the year he started as a shortstop at Rome. So normally the 10th graders just do some JV ball, but he started at Rome, and plus he was on. Because he was 16. But when I coached, I assistant coached that when Mr. Raines was coaching the Little League team. But I had fun with that because this is how I coached Ronnie, and it was known. when Ronnie got onto the batters, when I would tell everybody on that field, especially the catcher, the opponents, the catcher and the pitcher, everything my son was fixed to do. And I would tell him, my job is to get him on, get him over, get him in. And Ronnie always got in. Ronnie stole bases. And what I did, I told him, usually and I wasn't that game, I was coaching first base. And I would, when Ronnie got on first base, I don't remember exactly what happened in the hitting order and what he got, singles, doubles, whatever that day. But I do recall that every time, I know at least twice, he made it to first base. And we're standing at first base, and I tell the pitcher and the coach and everybody, I'm running him on this pitch. Now, in Little League, you got to stand on the back. I mean, Little League series, that organization, you can't play off. You have to stand on the bag and wait on the pitcher to release the ball before you can go. When in high school, of course, he can get a lead and all that. But so he's standing on the base, and I tell everybody, I'm gonna run him. I'm running him on this pitch. I don't care what you throw. I'm running him, and he's gonna still sack it. And you better make sure you make a good throw, or I'm gonna bring him in on this pitch. And that's what we did. I ran him on every single pitch. He very seldom got caught out. I mean, it was embarrassing. My son got on first base. He stole home. I mean, that's how we did it. Get him on, get him over, get it in. You get 2 strikes on you, so you know what's going on. Do you hear these guys say choke and poke? You don't know what that means. You get 2 strikes on you, you can't get a third one, or your bat is over for that round. If anybody ever watched Terry Pendleton play baseball, it was artwork that was amazing. He got 2 strikes on him. You might as well. If you got something to do, go water the lawn or something. He's gonna be there for a minute. Because if Terry Pendleton got 2 strikes on him, he would foul that ball off until he got the perfect pitch, and then he would nail it. So you choke and poke. When you get 2 strikes on you, you choke up about 1 inch on that bat. You walk in a little close to that bag, and you swing at anything close. Because if the umpire thinks it's a strike, and it's not, you're out whether it's a strike or not. So you better make contact. If you bunt one, just crease a little bit, you still get a chance at it to hit that third shot. Anyway, know what you don't know, and I've tried to live my life like that, and I've tried to live my life like I was under a magnifying glass, because my wife was really, she told my mother she was gonna have my son and how proud he was and everything after I'd only known her a month. And I owe it to my wife to make sure that everything for my son's life is perfect, and it'll always be that way, and it should always be that way for everybody. And that's the end of this video today. So know what you don't know. Everybody say hello to Scott. Say, hey, Scott.
Hello.
Hey, Scott.